Good day and welcome back to the Student StarCraft AI tournament. We have got for you the semi-finals, which will have first McGraves versus Steamhammer. McGraves 3-1 Ironbot, that was a surprise, and Steamhammer took Hammer 3-0. And then Cherry Pie eked out a victory over McGraves 3-2 and is now facing Kilobot, who dismantled Ximp in also a 3-2 nail-bitingly close match. But first of all, we will start with the losers bracket. It's Ximp, the carrier bot, dropped to Kilobot and then beat Zerzer 2-0, and McGraves, who took out B-Reaver after having been defeated by Cherry Pie 3-2. That was very close. And then we've got Protoss, who took down Hammer and Ironbot, failing to beat a Microwave and succeeding in beating Volleybot. So without further ado, let's get into the first game. It's Thomas Weide, and that's the carrier bot, and at the other end of the map it's Christian McGraves, and the bot's also called McGraves, so that will be very interesting to watch. Now, let's see what these two gentle bots have got in store for us. We have got Thomas Weide and the green Protoss at the 2 o'clock, going for the pylon first and then the scout, unfortunately in the wrong direction. But to make things equal, McGraves is also scouting wrongly. Then we are going to see a forge, a lot of cannons, behind that a quick expansion and a lot of carriers. Now McGraves is really going to have to fight hard to win this, because the carrier thing is not easy to break. And you can see that it is going to be all about the economy. McGraves also going for a quick expansion after only a gateway, and then after the expansion it's going to be the core, and at the other end of the map it is going to be a lot of cannons. Nexus has already been started and also only one gateway, so both of these players going for an eco-heavy build. McGraves finishing a little bit sooner, the worker transfer is done, worker transfer by Ximp is going to be there as well, and now we've got the first gateway units making their way across the map. And they are going to make contact with the enemy, but the enemy is safe and sound behind a lot of cannons, and so will not really be threatened by the odd goon and zealot. Now, what is McGraves going to do to break this wall of cannons? It looks like the range is starting for the Dragoons. We've got 2 gateways, another one coming up, and still pro production at an all-time high. 2 Nexus should be the correct answer to the plural of these things, and the same can be said for Thomas Weide. So McGraves, 5 workers ahead, a little bit of army supply more, but you are going to need quite a bit of army to break down this cannon wall. Now McGraves, what are you going to do? Because this handful of goons will have quite a little bit of trouble with all these cannons here, and the first star pulls are already starting. And that can only mean that it's going to be a little bit of a struggle. Now, first off, it should be said that these loser round 3 matches are best of 5. So the one to win 3 is going to go on into the last loser round, I believe it is. Let's have a peek. Oh no, we've got more to come. So that's very hard. If once you're down in the loser bracket, it's going to be a bit of a night. Oh, and here comes the Protoss attack. The goons are leading the charge and not the zealots. There are very few zealots. The goons are still hammering away at the cannons and more zealots are coming. The goons are focusing on the pylon. That's not the right decision, I think, but Ximp will be set back a little bit and more goons are coming. This is a timing attack. Lots of gateways, and the goons are trying to power through, are attacking the workers. That's good. But meanwhile, lots of goons are falling through the cannons, and this small ground army of Ximps is nowhere to be seen. So now we've got about 8 goons, only 2 cannons, the forge is going down, the pylon's being attacked. It would be a little bit wiser to kill the cannons first. 1 carrier is coming off the line, but it is still without interceptors. And now Ximp is losing the Nexus. Another worker transfer, but it's not really going to work. McGraves has got things well under control, 3rd already started, and look at this production. That is a really well executed bust of all the cannons. And although the first 3 carriers are out, Ooh, that's interesting. Can Sim bring it back? Still got a lot of minerals, so could do with some interceptors. But it looks like the carriers aren't fighting at all. Let's have a small peek at how many interceptors we've got. We've got 8. And perhaps it can hold the ram, sort of, with a goon coming off. Now got still 8 interceptors, 9. And this is really struggling for Ximp. Trying to push out as many interceptors as it can. It's got 4 carriers, it's now got 15 interceptors, but the carriers are not fighting, and that's not good because McGraves is in there with all its ground forces, and that is quite a few. So 20 interceptors, but the carriers aren't fighting, they are somehow pinned against the wall and are not succeeding. We've got the last cannon for Xim doing some damage because the carriers are really not getting their heart into things. And McGraves is looking like he's going to pull through in the first game. As always in these elimination stages, I will have to let all the enemy buildings get destroyed in case of a crash. And you can see by the light blue color that Thomas Vider's Ximp has aborted the game and had to GG. Now, next game up, and I am sorry to say, but Thomas Vider can only do one trick, and if that one trick stalls, it's going to be in a lot of trouble. And McGraves has found the solution to the carriers, but the question is, can it do it again? And here we see, and pardon me for speeding it up so much, because it's not really Ximp as Ximp, and it's going to sit behind its cannons. Here come the first starports, and there we go. Now McGraves with the 2 bays, lots and lots of gateways, lots of pylons, going for the army. And it looks like it is either been calculated by hand how many ground forces it needs to break the cannonball. There we go, the goons coming in again, and these cannons don't really have enough firepower against these goons. And here goes the natural again, and this time the carrier is there. Let's keep an eye on the interceptors. We've got 2 carriers now, but the real problem is that these carriers aren't really fighting. Now they're going to fight, but with all the interceptors over the low ground, and now it should be fighting with all these carriers to keep these goons on the ramp or keep them from spreading into the base. 12, 13, 14 interceptors, McGraves going for the 3rd, going for quite a lot of pylons. That's because of all the army production, and also got something in production that is called, what's McGraves building? What's it building? I can't see. Oh, it's going to go for scouts. That's pretty bien. And that is the second game. So one more game for Christian no, I don't want the bloody App Store. So last chance for Thomas Vider's Ximp to stay into this tournament or be booted out of it by Christian McGraves. McGraves, what a monster, beating down the carrier bot. That's not an easy thing to do for any Protoss, but it seems to be succeeding. Again, we've got the cannon wall. Again, we've got the army building around here. And Ximp this time looks like it's going to be right on time. For some reason, McGraves is late. Late, very late. And the cannon wall appears to be a little bit thicker than usual. So perhaps Ximp can make it work. First carrier is out. Let's look at the interceptor count. I don't have a unit selection, so I can't really make it out. Ooh, and McGraves losing some goons before the time is ripe, and now with the carriers and the cannons, with the interceptors, I think Ximp is going to hold this. Ximp will hold this, but ooh, there's some pitch fighting, and still the carriers don't really have their day. It seems like they refuse to fight, and although there is a lot of money, there are no interceptors being built, and I really don't know what's up with that. Now the carriers come back to life, interceptors are being built again, and now the interceptors come off the leash, and they tear down all the goons in the natural choke. The Nexus is still standing, the cannons are being rebuilt, new workers are being transferred, and Ximp appears to have held. At what price though? Because the natural has been badly damaged, lots of cannons have been torn to pieces. But now McGraves will have to contend with one group of carriers with a full complement of interceptors, and the next group of carriers is already building. And by the looks of it, the carriers are going to hit it in the rear. And where are the goons? Well, the goons are not all that many. McGraves only got 18 army supply. We've got 2 scouts. And let's see how this is going to go. But the first scout's going down, the second scout's going down as well, and the carriers are still only in there with a little bit of shield damage. So not in the worst position. And McGraves, what can it do? It's got 5 goons in the mineral line. And more bases, of course. There are many bases for McGraves, and Ximp will have to rebuild all its cannons first before it can resume carrier and interceptor production. Got a lot of interceptors, but these 4 carriers, and this demonstrates why you've got to do something about Ximp before the carriers get off the leash. That is a nice bit of murder being executed here by these 4 carriers. The thing is, for AIs, it's very hard to deal with units which ostensibly deal no damage at all. And the probes are going on a revenge mission versus the Zealot. But these carriers themselves don't do any damage, and these interceptors, they appear and they disappear and they reappear, and it's very hard to target or when to move in or out or how to deal with them. As an AI, that is very, very hard to get a clear concept of what a carrier actually is. Now Ximp going for the 3rd. Some units here in the middle of the map, not really all that much. Main is mining out, but carrier production has resumed for Ximp. And the moment it gets another group of 4 out, it will be a lot of extra damage in the game. And you can see what the main of McGraves, I think it's the best Protoss in the game right now, what that looks like. And that is only because it was a little bit late in breaking the wall of Ximp and trying to rebuild buildings in the main. It's going to be rather expensive, and as you can see, the army size for McGraves is very low, and it's all here in Zealots, and that's going to be very hard. Now you can see we've got 4 carriers here, 4 carriers there, 4th base being taken, next wave of carriers already being started. If we look at the upgrades, McGraves got a lot of ground upgrades, got the scout speed for some reason upgrades. It's also a rather mixed bag, and Ximp's got +2 weapons, observer speed, I think there's shields, and the increased capacity upgrade for the carriers. And if you look at the army supply, McGraves with a lot of workers, small army supply, but the quality of the army supply of Ximp is out of this world. Lots of workers are falling, that's not good. But the other worker transfer is going well, and there is a new cannon forest up at the 3rd already. And I think this is going to be... No, Ximp's spending a lot of money on cannons and saving quite a few for this base as well, because right now it's rather vulnerable. And also Ximp's losing quite a bit of workers, so McGraves will have to do with these 3 bases and try to get something done. As you can see at the moment, there are only quite a lot of Zealots, and they don't do really well against carriers, as we all know. Now the question is, when will these starports start flashing again? I think when the defenses of the 4th are up, then the Natural's got a little bit of juice left in it, but the 3rd is mining happily away and the 4th is operational. So it's 3 versus 2 bases, but McGraves really needs to get any kind of a decent army off the ground. Right now it's got about 60, but that's all here, and the only thing that's able to do some anti-air damage is this goon, and it's going to have a hard time at it being all alone. Now, perhaps something could be done with the cannons. I don't really know how or why, but the first group of carriers is here, the second group's there, and I fear that as soon as they hit something, it's going to be bloody murder all over again. Now we have got the starports flashing again, which will mean more carriers. A couple of goons for McGraves, finally, that's good, but still you need quite a bit of goons to deal efficiently with these carriers, which is going to be a problem, and they're going to find this base over here. The first next goon is going to get hammered into the ground, and the second group of carriers takes down 2 more goons, and that's about all that remains of the anti-air forces of McGraves. This large army here can't really make up its mind, and you can see we've got another group of carriers now going straight at the goons, and I'll slow it down to normal speed. You can see why it's hard. All the interceptors are dangling around or trying to hit stuff and are actually hitting stuff, and it's only occasionally that these goons can muster up the intelligence to move underneath these interceptors and target the carrier directly. One carrier has been taken down, and once they come into range they do get some hits, but then they move out again, and these interceptors have got a maximum range, but they've also got what's called a leash range, which extends 4 or 5 unit spaces beyond their maximum range, so they can swarm all over the map, and this is in high resolution, it's 720p, so this is quite a range where these interceptors are doing damage and these goons are struggling with it. Now, as you can see, we've got these 4 Stargates producing carriers. We've even got Templar Archives, which will mean we've also got an Arbiter Tribunal. We will have cloaked carriers momentarily. And the Natural's mining out, Third is mining happily away, Sim's got a lot of money, McGraves got a lot of money too, but really can't make up its mind how it's going to deal with this threat rebuilding in this main, so perhaps it can get something done. But by the looks of it, the strategy it's chosen, which consists of a lot of zealots, isn't really working, and you can see this carrier's dropping the ball a little bit. But these zealots are very expert in dying versus interceptor shot, and that's always a sad sight to behold as the owner of the green zealots. Now another base being taken by Xim, a zealot patrolling a little bit, and there we go. It's all going to be about gateway units, and of course what's in the starport. Looks like it's going to be scouts all over again, so scouts and goons, that's okay. Problem is though that for Xim there are 3 carriers in production and a lot of probes, and here we go. The question is, with 8 carriers knocking at your door, is that the time to have only a handful of goons and 2 scouts, and of course 2 starports producing scouts, but it's going to take a while. And meanwhile Xim is populating its 5th base, so always has 3 bases mining at any given time. Here comes the carrier, and 1 carrier, 2 carriers, 3 carriers have arrived already, so that is going to be bloody murder. You can see in what speed these 3 packs of 4 carriers are going to tear down the base with the Arbiter support and the observers in there as well. Quite a few actually, and now the goons are trying to do something with that, but I say good luck, have fun. And now McGraves is rebuilding its old main. It's got some stuff here, but in the end I fear it's not going to be enough. Let me speed it up just a notch. The new main has been found, razed to the ground, and now it's waiting until another of McGraves' bases has been found. Last base, and it's down, but oh dear, and McGraves had enough. It GG's, demonstrated by the light blue color, and that was the game. So that's the GG. McGrave bringing it back 2-1. And it needs 1 more game to eke out a decider match, or it will fall to McGrave if the timing push succeeds again. So, by the powers of this beautiful OpenBW project by Imp42 and TSEMU, I bring you 16 times the speed, and here we go. The attack wave is gathering already close distances, so perhaps that may be in McGrave's favor. That said, the cannons are up again, and the gateways are flashing. So what will this be? Will this be another... Oh, here come the goons. The goons are going to be in there, and the carriers are not ready yet. Although they've got 10 interceptors, they are not fighting at this moment. Here come the interceptors, and oh, this is going to be very close because a large number of cannons are still there. The carriers have got 9, 10 interceptors, and perhaps if they fight together with the cannons, they can hold these goons, but the interceptors are quite low. There are 18 goons, the cannons are all falling. There is only 1.5 cannon left. The forge is down, so no more cannons, and the probe transfer is being shot to pieces. The goon numbers appear to be having it, and as you can see, they are doing such a lot of damage to the infrastructure. The 3rd for McGraves has been started, and if these carriers don't get down to business pretty soon, and this ground army might get some use out of it after all. But we've got 35 interceptors. The problem is that these carriers are not fighting for some reason. And by now the natural has been raised to the ground to save this assimilator. Of course the 3rd is sort of up, but isn't really mining except a little bit gas, and Xim needs minerals for these interceptors, and these interceptors need to bloody well fight, because if they're not going to fight, they might just well never been made. And now the ground army of Xims is coming off the line. The probes are all gone. That's unfortunate. Are there any probes built here? No, they aren't. The 3rd for McGrave is up. And although we've got a lot of interceptors, these carriers aren't fighting, and in this choky position they might as well do away with all these goons, but for some reason they have gone completely haywire. And McGrave with the 3rd up and just pumping goons. Let's look at the production tab. It's all about goons. The occasional observer, the occasional pylon, but the rest of it is just pure goon. And it looks like McGrave is going to take this 3-1. We'll have to let the destruction take its course because the bot can always crash. And it's McGraves beating Thomas Vitus Xim. Xim taking an exit. That is if these two goons can tear down the Nexus, and there they go, closing the distance, moving down the ramp. And Ximp, although, no, Ximp hasn't got anything because it's eliminated, and that is, as they say that. So McGraves will be moving up a slot to losers round 4, where there will be some pretty aggressive Zergs in dropping down from the winners bracket. We'll have that later. And now we've got tier Protoss versus Ironbot. So I'm not going to waste your time introducing them. Oh dear, why can't I? You've got to hit the middle with this somehow, and if you don't place the replay correctly in the slot, it will ask for an app to open it. So we've got tier Protoss by Simon Prince from the Netherlands, and we've got Ironbot from Igor Dimitrievich from France. Iron has been dominant on the ladder for almost the entire year. Then Crazy got the better of it, then McGraves, and perhaps we're going to see a McGraves versus Iron match if Iron would drop to the lower bracket. But I think that the onus is on tier Protoss to make that happen, because as you can see, we've already got three vultures, but now with the range of these goons, these vultures are pretty much worthless. And the question is, where is this first tank coming to come from? These goons are going to do a lot of damage to the units, to the buildings, but with a little bit of repair, I think that Iron can do it. Problem is, though, that there are going to be more and more units. We've got 3 goons already, we've got the first tank, and if I'm not very much mistaken, siege mode's nearly done as well. So with siege mode, I think it can work, but Iron should be really hesitant to move out too soon, because I don't think that the mines are... Oh, the mines are ready, but these goons will eat... Oh, they will eat vultures for breakfast. And once the zealots get into range of the tanks, it's going to be bloody. But with the siege mode, all the Protoss units decide to back up. And with the second tank, I think that Iron just held its main. Natural is up and running for tier Protoss. Third is started, and if it can contain Iron a little bit longer to protect its third and the natural, a couple of cannons might come in handy versus vulture run-bys. Oh, scouting SCVs being denied entry, and tier is going to be all about a lot of units, so that's going to be beautiful. But Iron has constructed a command center behind the tank lines and is now out on the map with 3 tanks, lots of vultures. The tanks are in a little bit in an awkward position, but with all the mines going to be placed, it's going to be a hard lot for any Protoss to make anything happen. The tanks, though, are so far in the rear and in the mineral line, so Iron being very defensive for now, and that can't really be good. The next scouting SCV, or still the same one, is being engaged. Third base up and running, so it's 3 versus 2 bases. Tier looking to be in a good shape. The question, though, is what's Tier going to do to break the siege tank lines and win the middle to late game? And you can see these tanks are so very adept at shooting down goons. So together with the mines, it's going to be a bloody hard fight for Tier to get anything done. And you can see Iron now poking, eking out some little space for its own with the tanks. These goons are keeping their distance, but once in a while they're going to have to fight because Iron is already ahead in army supply, and although there are lots of vultures in there, the tanks more than make up for that in army value. Is there going to be a third? Yep, there is for Ironbot, and no fourth for tier Protoss. And this is really the point where you are losing the game, because you can't let Iron get on too long with its encroachments. It is going to take the map, cover it in mines. You can see every base is going to be mined, so it will know exactly where you are. And then this mech ball is just coming to go rolling, dropping, creeping into your natural. And if you haven't got any... Oh, we've got 1 carrier, that's good. And we'll see some anti-air soon. We've got a Wraith, and there will be Goliath soon as well, once it has been spotted. Of course, for the time being, this 1 carrier, these 2 carriers can do quite well. There was only 1 Wraith, so that was okay. But I am now hastily throwing up turrets, and I don't know if that's really going to work, because these 2 carriers are possessing quite a little bit of firepower. We've got a 3rd carrier as well, and these turrets are not really strong enough to deal with these carriers very well. They should stay a little bit grouped though, because if they aren't going to be, that's going to be hard. And the main Protoss army is being surrounded, Ironbot being pushed back in the middle and being pushed back over here. The workers are being engaged there. So tier Protoss is really fighting hard, but the third has been raided by these vultures and this one tank. So now the ground forces will have to do something as well, because the carriers can't do everything on their own. The first Goliaths are coming off the line for Iron, and they're going to have to fight really hard. But I think once these 4 Goliaths take down this one carrier, or take down the interceptors first, there will be a small wave of Goliaths pushing down. Ooh, this is going to be good. But the problem of tier is that it's not really fighting the tanks at all. It's just going to try and do everything with the carriers, and the ground forces, which are quite substantial, could easily overrun this tank position, this one as well. But tier is just sitting back behind its defense, taking a lot of damage. Third depopulated, the main is out of money, natural probe count is down, and the natural's being broken. And now you can see that the Goliath count is increasing so much, and tier can't really support all these carriers anymore, so the carriers will start dropping. And once the carriers start dropping, the entire mass which has been holding off the carriers will reinforce the push and break down the walls of the natural. So good attempt by tier Protoss, but I don't really think it's going to be enough. By now Iron's got bases all over the map. It's even got a Valkyrie for some reason, and is now slowly taking its time of devouring the main. The third has been raised as well, and you can see it's maxed, and it's going to stack up minerals and gas so fast you won't even know what's happened anymore. So nice contain in the first instance of tier Protoss, but after that the contain and the goons really didn't do enough damage. So tier is out of this first game, going to Ironbot, and without waiting a second, let's hop into game number 2. Ironbot with the great breakout, and that's really the only point where it's vulnerable. Once it gathers steam, it's very hard to keep it shut in its base or keep it from doing anything at all. And this game, what's tier going to do? Go for 3 zealots, and here come the zealots, but the problem is that these zealots are not going to do anything. And now the first vulture is out, and you can see what's happening here. The vulture has more speed than the zealots, so will out-micro the zealots. And of course there is a goon, but the goon is not with the zealots. So the zealots die, and now the goon will have to do something on its own. But the first tank's out already. Ooh, that's not a good lift, because then the tank would be vulnerable. The command center is ready already, and tier Protoss with the expansion, which is a little bit later. But we've got 3 goons now, which is okay. This marine just makes it out with a slither of life left. And there you go. So this goon really refuses to come to the aid of his zealot friend, and then the zealot friend dies, and that's very sad. Mines being laid, and reinforcements are being intercepted by this this vulture. And now the tanks with siege mode are clearing the natural. So we'll have a 2 versus 2 base situation, and the pressure this game doesn't really work nearly as well as in last game. One tank down the ramp, the other one will have to find their way to, but in the middle of the map it's still going to be all about these. It looks like they've been trained to pick up a zealot and then just out micro it, and that means that the push, or what is the push for tier Protoss, is not really being reinforced, because every time there is going to be a vulture incursion, if it's going to be a goon, it will let it through. If it's going to be a zealot, it will kill it, and if there is nothing, it will kill a couple of probes. And here comes the second vulture. It's snuck out already, and then you've got 2 zealots versus 1 zealot versus 2 vultures, and that's not good at all. Tier Protoss is struggling to get anything done, and now we've got 2 vultures in the mineral lines, and see how fast these probes are dying. Natural 4 iron is operational now, and with about 6 tanks, it's going to do pretty well versus this small goon push with a couple of supporting zealots. And now these vultures have gone out of the way again once there was a goon coming by, and all the probes are dying. That's really a massacre, and although Tier's got quite a lot of probes, it's losing way too many. And you can see the goons passing, the vultures being repaired, and the other vulture is in there already. So third started for Iron, and the tanks are encroaching upon the territory which was held by Tier Protoss and are approaching the natural. So you can see these zealots being a total pain in the ass, and they will remain a pain until these tanks arrive. And once the tanks arrive, as a Protoss, you are going to be in a big trouble. 3 bases up for Ironbot, the Air Force is going to be there as well. We've got a science vessel, and now the tanks are ranging the defensive positions with these cannons, and now Tier Protoss will never ever get out of its base again. So Ironbot building turrets straight in the choke of the natural, making short work of this Protoss upstart. Tier Protoss is fighting for its life, but the ground army is only really fighting once its back's literally to the wall of its main base, and mainly just dies. So okay, but still the challenge remains that you've got to deal with these siege tanks, and if you can't deal with the siege tanks, you are really going to have a hard fight in a PvT. And that's the game. So last chance for Ironbot to not make it through, to lose around 4. Last chance as well for Tier Protoss to get anything done. And you can see this push is okay, but it's not doing anything. And the goons are there, but the goons, you've got to get a lot more purchase out of your goons, because there is only one tank, and you can shoot at things, you can harass so much better. But once the mines are there and the tanks get rolling, we've got one tank now, and the tank's on the high ground. That's a beautiful position with the sight of this eBay overhead. And this Protoss army is just not really doing it. We saw earlier McGraves busting the cannon wall of Xim, and that sort of thing you need to do, because right now it's 3 versus 2 bases. If you commit to an attack, kill a lot of vultures, perhaps kill, it's only one tank. Kill the vultures, kill the Goliaths. If you can pin them to the wall, the zealots can get in, and Dragoons beat vultures and Goliaths anyway, so that wouldn't be the problem. And then you can just take another base, crank up the macro, and keep trading. But right now the tank count is growing, and this gateway army doesn't want to have anything to do with this tank position. I can understand that, but in the long run it's going to be quite deleterious to your position. And Ironbot even starting at 3rd, which is not being contested. This nice push by Tier Protoss is okay, but by now there is already so much anti-air that it's not really going to work, although the workers are being engaged quite nicely. And what should happen is, yeah, you take down 3rd, so Tier Protoss has found the path to victory. Perhaps these 2 carriers keep the Terran locked in his base at the ramp. There is a fusion melee of all kinds of units here, and although these carriers aren't doing the most damage, the real damage is being done over here. The 3rd's being raised, and this fortification is not really going to be long for this world. And Tier breaks out with the reinforcements, and now is all over the natural. So Ironbot on the brink of extinction, but it's got a lot of firepower still. The problem though is going to be in the eco game, because the main is nearly out. The natural is not really a safe place. The contain here consists of only a handful of vultures, and every time there comes a goon or a carrier, it's going to be bloody. And this cannon is beautifully placed. I don't know if that's done on purpose, but it's taking the wind right out of this vulture sails, metaphorically speaking, because vultures don't really have sails, and oh, one cannon would have done so well here. And you can see Iron really showing no mercy, with only 3 vultures entirely depopulating the 3rd. And Tier Protoss is fighting with a lot of carriers at the natural choke. The anti-air brigade of Iron is suffering so many losses, and although the 3rd is depopulated and the natural is in a bloody state as well, the main is mined out. I think that Tier Protoss has got enough in these carriers, and once the ground troops are dying for Iron, I think that the ground troops of Tier Protoss will be entering the battle as well. The natural is bleeding out. What's Tier Protoss spending its money on? It's building interceptors, and I think that's a good choice, but this game is won. Ironbot has got nothing left, only 6 army supply, and that's only the vultures now being a pain in the 3rd. Tier Protoss just not bothering anymore. The ground army tearing into the main base. Tier Protoss bringing it back from the brink of death with a well-timed carrier switch, and Iron couldn't defend itself. Lost the 3rd, and Tier Protoss has won the third game. Last turret, and that's that. Tier Protoss defeats Iron. It's 2-1. Game 4 is afoot. Now Tier Protoss with, I fear, the same build all over again. Question is, can Iron learn from it and not mess things up again? We are seeing the command center being constructed. We see the factory out there already, and waiting a little bit before venturing out on the map. This tank in a bloody awful position, and now Tier Protoss is waiting until it's got a little bit of a force to move out. This Vulture though has done away with 3 Zealots already, and although the goons are there, they should just be doing damage. Take a Vulture, take an SCV, take some hits at the eBay. That's how you do it, because before these tanks are down you can do a lot of damage, and by then you can have easily gotten your 3rd or 4th base up. One piece of advice, just keep one goon or 1 cannon at each base, because this one Vulture is going to do way too much damage again. Oh, and there we go, has found a couple of Zealot friends to play with, and by now Iron's moving out. So the first containment strategy of Tier Protoss has failed. The question is, will it now be able in a 2 versus soon to be 3 base situation to pull out with the carriers and do some damage? Doesn't look like it, because the Iron Bot army is so strong and the tanks are moving back for some reason, and that might just give Tier Protoss the edge it needs. This looks like a little bit of a cannon thing going on. That's good. We've got a Wraith in the probe line already, so for the time being quite safe against Vulture run-bys. And while the tanks are all here, and I couldn't imagine why they would be doing that, because the game was already won for Ironbot, Tier Protoss has been given another chance. Army-wise though, Ironbot is ahead in supplies, got to contain going, and over here, although the tanks aren't even fighting, and this is going to be where it's ugly, because now we are going to see the carriers. We've got 2 carriers already. I think we've got the upgrade for the increased capacity, and now Ironbot is going to suffer the loss of a 3rd again, and I can't for the life of me imagine why these tanks aren't getting into the fight. The 3rd has been shattered. Well, the 4th is up already, and the 5th has been started, so I'd say Iron's still not out of this. But the carrier count is growing, and these tanks have been completely useless. And with these 3-4 carriers, I think that Tier Protoss can do quite a bit of damage. Should keep them in tight formation though, but they have found another base, and I think that's the right decision, just not get into too close of contact with the main army. But now the anti-air forces of Iron are there. We've got the Goliath Corps backed up by a couple of Wraiths and an occasional Valkyrie. And now Tier Protoss is really suffering, because the main is out, the natural is getting low, and producing these interceptors without getting anything in return is very, very expensive. The tank brigade is rolling out as well, and these 4 carriers are all what is standing between total defeat in this 2017 finals and moving on to the very last game. And Tier Protoss has fought so hard to get into the round of 16 and then made it so far, but I really can't see how it's going to get out of here, because Ironbot's got the army production, the army supply is increasing, and Tier Protoss is so low on money. It's only got this 1 base, it's got no 3rd, and every Vulture that's going to get out of the base is going to be shut down. Same goes for the probes, and this army is growing stronger and stronger. The SCVs are there for repairs, are repairing all the units one at a time, have got some issues making it into the front lines, but even, oh, this Goliath now dies. The carrier count though, the carrier count is okay, but all the goons are dead, and now the Goliaths are going to move over. Oh, the goons got sidetracked here by fighting a couple of Vultures and a tank. So Tier Protoss hasn't got enough to fight everything at once. Ironbot claiming the map, producing unit after unit, approaching max. Tier Protoss still in there with 100 supply, 61 of that which are workers. But this is the really ugly story, that it's out of gas, out of money. And we all have a countdown right now. We've got 17, 13, 12 interceptors, and the interceptor count is everything that's going to keep Tier Protoss into the game. Interceptor count down to 4. Tank brigade arriving at the natural choke, and this cannon was the last bit of defensive stuff that there was. We've still got 4 carriers, but they haven't got an interceptor, or they've got 2 interceptors each about. and they are hovering over the main nexus, while the glorious and victorious army of Ironbot is marching into the natural, taking out all the probes, the nexus, the assimilator, and is now moving into the main. And Ironbot will make it out of this losers round 4 into losers round 5, where, which we saw earlier, it will be fighting McGraves. So we've going to get McGrave versus Ironbot match in McGrave will be fighting either Microwave or Steamhammer, and Iron will be fighting Cherry Pie or Kilobot. And where did Iron drop from? Against Microwave. So we'll be evading Microwave there. And now we'll be going into the round of 4. And it's a little bit of a Zerg thing, really, because we've got Cherry Pie versus Kilobot. And I believe I'm starting with the lower end of the bracket. It doesn't really matter. Cherry Pie versus Kilobot, and then Microwave versus Steamhammer. Cherry Pie took down McGrave 3 games to 2. That was really, really close. And Kilobot dispatched of Litterbot and then took 5 games to get him out of the running. So let's see what these two Gentlebots are going to do to one another. Cherry Pie, the Facebook bot, with Gabriel Sene, with TSC Moo, and also with Dan Gant, the author of Purple Wave and Purple Spirit, of course, is going for a little bit of a Zergling thing, and Kilobot is out there already with, for now, the superior Zergling numbers, and it will be a little bit of a cat fight, I can tell you that. But Cherry Pie, for the moment, gaining the momentum. It's now 4-0, and Cherry Pie losing a Zergling for nothing. That's really... that can just cost you the game. And now Kilobot is going to power through. There are 2 Sunkens, though. So in that regard, Cherry Pie is not out of this, but the natural for Kilobot is up. And the bot's called Kilobot. The author is called Marion Diveka, and we've got an Evo chamber as well. So if you look at the upgrades, both have got speed, but Kilobot is also making the +1 weapons. And Cherry Pie sitting back behind 3 Sunkens for the time being. A reasonable position, a drone gets sniped, and that is where it will get ugly, because you can have these 3 Sunkens, but if you haven't got any kind of map control... Oh, and that was I think totally worth it to prevent the extension of the Sunken area. Losing a link for that, and now Kilobot is going, it was 8 workers earlier, is now going for another hatchery. And are we going to see any upgrades? No, it's just going to be a nail-bitingly close match, and Kilobot's going in for the kill, going in for the Sunken, killing some workers as well. And all the workers are out there, out of protection of the Sunken colonies, and the workers are losing mining time and losing hit points and losing their lives. And now it is only 2 workers left. And oh, it's the spire which is being built here. That is such a bad placement. And because of that, Kilobot is losing so many drones and the Sunkens. And the Lings, they don't really dare get in there, but at this point it's 2 versus 9 workers, and the last Sunken is being attacked by the ravenous Lings of Kilobot. Cherry Pie fought for its life, but was really unfortunate in its placement of the spire, and now its base is overrun by these hungry Zerglings. And Kilobot, against all odds, well, Kilobot never underestimated, but I was really expecting Cherry Pie to show some glorious games, and it did, of course, but Kilobot, without an update for the last year, is taking the first game in style. Next game up, will Cherry Pie play more defensive? That's the question. Or will it try to go more aggressive? That's also an option. For the time being, we are seeing Pool first, and Kilobot is going Pool and then the Extractor, and is also going for an eBay. So that's that. First 3 larvae morphed into Lings for Cherry Pie, and the Lings are moving out and more Lings about to come. For Kilobot is saving the Lings at home. You can see Kilobot started +1 already, started speed, and once +1 and speed are done, oh, these Lings not going in the right direction at all. The naturals being started for Cherry Pie, and Kilobot is late with the extra hatchery. Drone count is 1 up. The problem is, though, that now you've got a veritable wave of Lings coming at you, and the upgrades are not done yet. So you've got to take a good couple of fights. That's a good one. because remember, in this tense Zerg versus Zerg with two of the best ZVZ players in existence as far as AIs go, that is every single Ling is a single Ling. And now you can see Kilobot's got a lot of minerals, really ought to place down another hatchery, is trying to do so, but this drone is in a very precarious position and is running away for its life. But now we've got the speed and nearly +1 done, so that will be a huge factor in this battle. And these Lings can't get down the ramp in time. A couple of them dying, Kilobot losing 1 or 2 Lings as well, but for now Kilobot is ahead. That said, that's not going to last long because Cherry Pie has got the extra hatchery and hasn't got speed yet. So for the time being, it's 1 hatch with +1 nearly done and speed. And Kilobot is really struggling to get something done with that. And now, oh, the army movement is not good enough because with speed versus a Zerg without speed, you ought to be able to get things done quickly. And oh, it's going to be a base trade because we've only got 5 Zerglings of Cherry Pies here. They are pulling back. Kilobot is building 2 hatches at once, and Kilobot is in the natural of Cherry Pie. Cherry Pie's only got 5-6 pair of Lings, going to lose the natural. Where are the Lings going? The Lings are not going for the hatchery anymore. They're going straight into the main. They're going after the workers. That I think is a good choice. And all the workers are dead once more. Cherry Pie on 2 workers. 2 workers. Where's the last one? We've got 1 drone here. And we've got 1 drone there, but both of them are being attacked. And although the Lings of Cherry Pies are coming back to save the day, Cherry Pie now in the army lead. It's also got only 2 workers. Oh, and that play for Kilobot didn't really work out. But these 2, oh, and now it's a beautiful situation for Kilobot because it's got 3 hatches. It's got the speed, it's got the +1, and it's got the worker lead of 7-1. Oh, and the run by of these 4 Lings. All the Lings of Cherry Pies are going to come back again. And the last workers for Cherry Pie are being shot to pieces. And that, as they say, is that there isn't a single worker in production for Cherry Pie anymore. Kilobot is going in this with a vengeance. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how you play Zerg versus Zerg. Good morning. And suddenly, as the Facebook Zerg with TSCMU, with Dangan, with Gabriel Seneev, you find your base overrun by a lot of hungry red Zerglings, and the last thing standing between you and total elimination is game number 3 in this semi-finals game. We saw Kilobot with the superior macro in game 1, with the superior build order in game 2. What will it do next, and how can Cherry Pie try and stop that? Let me speed up the initial stages of the game because, as I said, we've got another game coming after this one, which will be Microwave versus Team Hammer. Look out for that too. But now it's going to be about the raw survival of Cherry Pie in this tournament. And we see it going for a more defensive build with the spawning pool and then a sunken, and might be a little bit tighter, but oh, there you go. And Kilobot going for the build which served it so well last game with the +1, with the speed, and then banking on the defender's advantage to hold off the first Lings. And Cherry Pie running in with these initial Zerglings. Wow! 1 gets caught at the ramp, and the 3 of them are running for their lives because there are already a lot of hungry Zerglings after it. And now Cherry Pie went for the very quick lair again, and I don't think that is a wise decision because if anything has been learned, at least by me in the last 2 games, is that Kilobot is honoring its name. It's after this Facebook Zerg with a vengeance and doesn't really have enough to break the Sunkens at this point. Some Sunkens are not all that well placed, and now Cherry Pie's got a large surface area covered by these Sunkens. I think this Sunken is covered by the one in the rear, and Kilobot has, well, sort of understood that. And the front Sunken is being, oh, and it lives just with a half of its life left. But I think again that the Cherry Pie is trying to place a Spire here. I'm going to keep an eye on the production tab, and yes, the Spire is being placed in an awkward position. More Lings are coming, and I think that the Spire is going to be sniped again. And if the Spire is going to be sniped, and this Sunken is going to be sniped as well, the Spire is completely defenseless, and it dies again, and the Lings are going after the Sunkens. Workers coming off the line, and some workers are being killed because they stick out their stupid little necks too far. and now it's all getting worse and worse for Cherry Pie. Cherry Pie really ought to find another position to build its spire, because with a spire it could be in a great position if it built its spire here, and the second sunken, the third sunken over there. It would be in a better shape. The second sunken just lives, oh, with a sliver of health left. But by now, Kilobot is all over this. It's got 9 versus 12 workers. Yeah, 12 workers, but what can you do? No upgrades at all. Oh, we've got speed. But if you're trying to fight Zerglings with Sunkens, Zergling speed is not going to do you a lot of good. The second Sunken dies, and now Lings are being traded for workers. You can see Kilobot was behind in workers. Cherry Pie was 11 versus 9. And is now down to 4 workers. 4 workers and more are being engaged as well. These Sunkens are really too slow in protecting what's precious in this Zerg's base. And Kilobot looking to be on the brink of taking down Cherry Pie. It's unrelenting. And I don't know why they are after this egg. It's not really a wise decision. Also landing some hits on the lair. And this last worker, oh, it's being ignored. And the the Zerglings for Kilobot are retreating again. And it's only 1 worker for Cherry Pie. How can this end? And as far as ZVZ goes, I thought, well, 2 ZVZs to cast, that's going to be very boring. But as both of these bots are so good, their micro is so good, and especially for Kilobot, its build orders and decision making are so spot on, balancing workers with Zerglings, and of course the +1/+1 thing really knocking the wind out of Cherry Pie's sails. And Zerglings going after the workers. This one gets cut off from the Sunkens, and it's just this one full health Sunken and this badly damaged Sunken standing between certain defeat and moving into 2 more games against Kilobot. And I'm really sorely tempted to type GG right now, because 2 more ZVZs versus Kilobot, I don't think I could stand it, let alone if you are going to have to play it. And now the Lings are all over this. The worker count isn't all that high, but that is going to be the last building, and that is the GG. Kilobot taking down Cherry Pie 3-0, moving into the winners finals. Wow, and who's going to be there next? It's either going to be Microwave or Steamhammer. So I'm not going to torture you very long, and I'm just going to put in the first game. Steamhammer playing as the yellow Zerg in the bottom right corner, and as the orange Zerg we've got Microwave. And I can only hope that the Ling battles won't be too convoluted, because it can be really hard to tell them apart, these Zerglings, if they are yellow or orange. So there we go, gas, and I think it's a pool, and the same thing going down at the other end of the map. We'll see spawning pool was going to finish first for Microwave, and the extractor as well. And then it is going to be, I think, about the speed. Who's going to be build speed first? A couple of scouting drones roving the map, having found the enemy. And Microwave is first with the Zergling. Steamhammer's got 2 more drones. And Steamhammer's also going for a quick lair, but hasn't got any kind of... Oh dear, this cannot be good at all. Steamhammer is only now starting its first Ling, and more Lings are coming from Microwave. And there isn't a Sunken in sight. That is not good. The Lings of Microwaves are at the gates. Zerglings at Portam. There you go. And now it's up to the workers to fend them off. A couple of Lings coming in from Steamhammer. The lair is done. Natural being started by Microwave. And Microwave, let's look at the upgrades. Both of them got speed ready. It's going to be a tug of war with Lings in the middle. And of course, the Spire starting for Steamhammer. The Natural starting for Microwave. And who is going to come out on top in this nail-bitingly close match? I think for the moment that Steamhammer with this handful of Zerglings can hold all of the Zerglings of Microwave until at least 1 muta has been built. And with 1 muta versus Zerglings, you are going to be in a brilliant position. And we saw earlier Kilobot building an Evo chamber and getting the +1 weapons done, because that's also going to give you a little edge, like the armor, because +1 weapons is going to be done faster. Steamhammer not really trusting it, moving back to the defensive position at the high ground with their brethren, going for a defense at the ramp, and that's the hallmark of a pretty good Zerg that knows when to fight and know when not to fight. And oh, shouldn't lose anything in the retreat. Natural for Microwave is up. Microwave also starting a Spire, but it's going to be pretty late. And there we are. The Spire for Steamhammer is going to finish momentarily. The Ling armies are balanced. So the minerals and the gas having been spent on the lair and the Spire have been well... ooh, there we go. And even with the Lings, Microwave at this point is retreating. What's it going to do? Is going to build a sunken. Has it got an Evo? Is this going to be an Evo chamber? Let's have a small peek. Yes, it's going to be an Evo chamber. But the first mutas are already on the way. And this is going to be very tight in defense for Microwave. The Lings of Steamhammers, which are about double in number, are going to be at the gates too. The two mutas are going after the Overlord first. I think that's a mistake, because it will give Steamhammer, give Microwave the chance to get a couple of spores up. And once the spores are up, the mutas of only one base will have a really hard time finding a gap in the armor. And this might be the closest spore timing I've ever seen. This spore is already done and morphing. This creep colony is still building, but it's perfectly placed. I don't think that these... build a spore. Yeah, the first spore is up. And these mutas, they're going after the workers, but they are... Oh, one is getting low and one is dying. And this is pretty bad, because if you are going to play one base muta, you can't lose your first mutas for only a couple of workers. That's just not how you do it. You ought to be striking here. Behind this, Steamhammer is building a natural, but I think it's going to be pretty late. Microwave is over here with the 13 workers already. Going for, I think it's... No, this is not going to be. It's going to be a Spire. And there we are. So the natural's impregnable. We've got 6 workers out there. A handful of Zerglings, defensive position, and at the main base we've got one lone muta trying to make it work versus all these workers and the one spore, and it's going after the spore again, losing a lot of hit points. That's not how you do it at all. Unfortunate for Steamhammer, but its mutas are just too stupid, and it can only be hoped that because this is going to be the Spire for Microwave. Microwave's got not too much gas in the bank, but if it's going to throw its mutas away like that, it's not going to be... Well, it's going to suffer a bit, and let's see how the game is going to pan out with trying to predict too much. Drone-wise though, Microwave really in a good position with 19 versus 9 workers. Army supply is down, the Lings are retreating for some reason. Upgrade-wise, Microwave starting +1 ground armor as well. Natural for Steamhammer up, but it's 9 versus 18 workers. The mutas couldn't get anything done. This spore is still holding its own, and these mutas are on some kind of weird suicide mission. They are taking way too much damage, and even if they took out 2 drones apiece, it couldn't be economically feasible to keep fighting this fight in this fashion. These workers are getting a little bit low, but the mutas are dying, and that is not a good trade. Zerglings for Microwave approaching the enemy position. Steamhammer with the gas at the natural, and it's down 8 to 17 workers. A couple of mutas are being flown over. And this one spore is really paying for itself. Wouldn't really hurt Microwave to put down another. A couple of workers going down now, but all in all with the spore. And I'm sure there's going to be a growing muta count from Microwave. The mutas are getting into the action as well with the petite little glaive worms, but with the bounce they might just take down the last sliver of health of this one muta, and the combat micro from Microwave appears to be just better. And Steamhammer can't make up its mind where it's going to attack after the mutas, after the spore, after the workers, and going in for a one hit on the spore and then catching a couple of glaives from the mutas as well. And at this end of the map, the Microwave Zerglings have their way with those of Steamhammer, and now into the natural. That is not going to be good. What's happening with that spore colony? Nothing much. And the workers are coming off the line all the way from the main to help fight the Zerglings. But as you can see, it's 23 versus 4 workers. The muta threat has already been eliminated. Microwave is breaking out of this in style. This one spore did so much, and the fighting skills of Steamhammer's mutas were just not enough to get anything done this game. So a little bit of a lull in the festivities. We've got one worker left, and that one worker is now going to kick it. Very unfortunate. I think, yeah, the mate chase of the... Oh, well, we got 3 muters for Steamhammer still, and Microwaves got more. Microwaves got more, found the fewer of Steamhammers, is in pursuit, and is also starting the +1 air armor, +1 ground armor for some reason. The Zerglings and the muters are hitting the main, and Steamhammer's got nothing left, got no supply, got really nothing, and types out of the game. Microwave taking it 1-0 over Steamhammer, and let's see team game number 2. So, Steamhammer, what are you going to do? Because last game you just got outgunned by Microwave, your muters were too stupid. Perhaps this game try a little bit of a ground-based thing. We'll see a hatch first. That's a 9 hatch, 9 pool, that's really something. On the other end of the map we've just got 9 pool. And you can see the result of this, that Steamhammer is just losing drones, and it's already 8 versus 4 workers, and a lot of mining time lost as well. And to add insult to injury, oh well, of course, that's pretty well done. Once enough gas has been harvested for speed, the gas workers go back to the minerals to try and get something done, because although Steamhammer's got 9 Zerglings versus the 11 of Microwave, Microwave immediately slapped down the natural and started the lair as well, with that first attack taking down half of the worker force of Steamhammers. Steamhammer seems to be a little bit behind in the build order department, and the Muter Combat Micro wasn't too good either last game, so it's really going to have to come up with a clever plan to beat down Microwave, because Microwave is taking off, placing down a creep colony, building some workers, immediately is going to be made into a sunken, and the lair is finished. Wow, that is some really superior macro by our friendly neighborhood Microwave. Now with the 2 sunkens and the Zergling numbers is going to fight off the superior Ling force of Steamhammer. Steamhammer going for an all-out attack, and the Lings of Microwave aren't fighting, so Steamhammer could get something done. Now the Lings are coming into the fight, and while sacrificing 1 sunken colony, I think cutting down some straggling retreating Zerglings of the enemy, Microwave has held this, and right now it's 16 versus 4 workers. So the Zergling all-in didn't really work after all. That said, oh, that's the second sunken being started, and now the Lings come to the protection of the second sunken as well. The Spire hasn't been started yet. Oh, well, Microwave is just 1 step ahead of me every single time. And now it's 15 versus, 5 workers. Steamhammer rebuilt a worker. But it's never ever going to break this position, and Microwave is just going to build worker upon worker, and with these 2 sunkens and the Ling army is going to be in a pristine position to take game number 2 as well. So Microwave, well, I can't really agree with a 9 hatch, 9 pool if the 9 hatch isn't going to be in your natural and you're backing it up with quite a number of sunkens. The Lings have snuck by, are killing the expansion of Steamhammers, are leaving the worker alone and coming back for it, and now are in the workers again. And although the Zerglings of Steamhammers are coming back, it's still only 1 worker that's standing between 3 workers, excuse me, but 3 versus 26 isn't going to be a very fun fight as well. A 3rd hatchery being started, and the first muter is out for Microwave. Microwave isn't really taking any chances, killing the scouting overlord, and now with the first muter is setting after the enemy Lings. What can you do? 5 workers for Steamhammer, nothing much of an army to speak of, and the first muter is arriving in the mineral lines. Is it going to tap out? What else can it do? Or is it going to wait until all the buildings are destroyed? Going to try and mine some gas, but it's not really going to work. More muters are taking the Lings back home, and then you'll have 3 muters in your base without any kind of anti-air. All the workers are dying again. It is 0 versus 28 workers. More muters are being sent over, more Zerglings are being sent over, and Steamhammer is dead in the water. Last worker is dying. No more money in the bank. Well, you've got a little bit of money in the bank, but meanwhile you've got about 8 muters, 4 Zerglings, and it's only getting worse. Microwave with a pristine Zerg versus Zerg action, and I can't really wait to see the if... Oh well, let's not get ahead of myself. Last game for Steamhammer. What can it do? It's in the first game. Its build order was okay. 1 base muter, but then wasted all the muters on a spore. Second game, it did a very suspicious 9 hatch, 9 pool, all in the main base. Now it's going for gas first into a pool, and I can't. And now it's got enough money for another hatchery. Oh, it's going into a very quick lair, and that is not going to do well at all, because the lings of microwaves are already on the way. But Steamhammer, with the defender's advantage, can match 6 for 6 lings, and is for the time being safe. Now microwave, what are you going to do? You are down in workers, and I think that if a Steamhammer places a sunken down, it's going to be in a good position to take this game, at least if the muters are going to be any good. Microwave, though, placing down the natural expansion, going for some kind of aggression, and that is going to be a very quick spire. The drones are coming off the line to help and defend, and that wasn't really necessary because the Zerglings of Steamhammers were so much stronger than those of Microwave. Now with the sunken, perhaps the drones can stay mining. It's 10 versus 9 workers. Microwave has called up a little bit, and more Zerglings are back at home to help stave off the enemy advance. Starting a... oh no, that's not a... that's an Evo chamber. So again we are going to see, I think, the 1 base muter versus 2 base with a spore colony defense per base. And the thing will come down to the muter micro of Steamhammer, or are these Zerglings going to do something in the meanwhile? Let's look at their upgrades. They've both got only speed, no other upgrades in the offing, and no large... oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. And Steamhammer starting the first 3 muters all at once, saved up some larvae for that, and is winning a little bit in the Zergling versus Zergling war. But why is this Zergling not coming along with his friends? And it's a big mistake to kill that scouting overlord. Well, it's okay. This sunken is very well placed. It can protect as well the entry as the ramp and the hatchery as well. But it is done a little bit late, and Steamhammer with the added... yeah, Steamhammer is going to break through here with the lings. Oh, and it's a spore colony. It's not good. It's not going to do Steamhammer. It's not going to do Microwave any good at all. But the... oh god, this prioritization is so out of this world. The lings are after the hatchery, and the muters are after the spore colony. That is not good at all. 2 muters have been dropped, and the 3rd is going to go down as well, unless these Zerglings really get to it quickly. Oh, and the first 3 or 4 muters die to the first spore again. That is not good. In the main base, the spore is up, but it's badly placed. And Steam... oh no, this muter is going after the spore once more. It cannot be. Meanwhile, we've got 12 versus 7 workers, so I think it's going to be okay for Steamhammer. And the lings are going to do their bit as well. Workers are going to die, mining time is going to be lost, and even though this muter is probably going to suicide itself again, Steamhammer is looking good this game. Starting another hatchery for more larvae. As you can see, he's got a lot of minerals. Could also be taking a natural, would be a wise decision right now. But, oh, Microwave's coming back with a little bit of lingage. And the lings are going to kill. Wow. Losing 2 lings in the middle of the map is not going to do Steamhammer any good at all. And these 2 lings, they aren't attacking, they're just getting stuck on the enemy Zergling. So that's 4 lings killed for nothing. And these 2 have to be very careful that the same fate doesn't befall them. No, they are fighting, but 2 versus 6 is not a fight you'd like to take. And Microwave has sort of clawed itself back at the game, built a... well, an okay worker force. And built its first muter as well. And with the 1 spore is in an okay position. Oh, the lings though let themselves get distracted instead of tearing down the natural of Steamhammer. If Steamhammer can get the natural up, it's building so many buildings in the main base, it's going to have a major advantage. and 2 overlords are being shot down for Steamhammer. It will have to rebuild that, but it's got 17 workers. And oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Yes, that's how you micro the muters. Worker transfer. No, where is this one going? Oh dear, it's not going anywhere. Or is it going to mine these neutral or these 0 minerals? No, it's not going to. It's getting stuck. And going for an extractor. I'd really be much easier for Steamhammer if 1 or 2 sunkers would be placed. It's still 16 versus 10 workers. And although Microwave has got its base muter tight with 4 hatcheries, with all the upgrades you could potentially build, and with a spore colony of your own, you'd be in a very good position. Microwave, though, with the superior, where are these muter numbers coming from? It's really beyond me how Steamhammer can drop the ball so often and so hard, losing another worker, losing the muter bat. Oh, the muter of Microwave got killed by the spore as well. Steamhammer can sort of hold on. And now it's really up to Microwave to get things running again. Only been on a single lair all this time, while Steamhammer has got quite many. But Steamhammer, what's it building? For crying out loud, you should build 2 fat rounds of workers, put some defense up here, and then 1A, 2A, 3A into the 4th game. But for some reason it's not doing so. It's staying on 9 workers, which means that Microwave actually has got a worker lead and is winning all the muter battles again and again. Oh well, this one is barely lost. Some workers are being downed and all the muters fall, and I can't for the life of me understand how, with so much money in the bank, you can play so bad. That's really really disappointed by Steamhammer. Microwave, of course, looking to be about to take this game as well. All the workers. Oh, we've got 2 workers left for Steamhammer. And some muter suiciding on the spore. That's very hard not to do for reasons. But by now there is another hatchery for Microwave. And Steamhammer's only got 3 workers. This is a really expensive way to take down a sunken colony, I can tell you that. Lynx getting killed, muters getting killed, and the only thing would be necessary is to run up 4 Lynx, kill the spore, then send in the muters to kill the sunken, and then just overrun it. But for some reason the Lynx are going after the drones, the muters going after the drones, and the spore and the sunken are killing every single thing. But the spore is getting pretty low. No natural yet for Microwave. And the spore is down, so I think this is going to be the end. It's 3 versus 1 muters. And of course there are going to be Lings in the mineral line as well. This is really... Wow. Steamhammer coming back with the new spore and the new sunken, and still 3 workers. And Steamhammer coming in with some more muters and Lings. Still sending the muters in after the spore and the zerglings after the sunken. This asymmetrical warfare thing hasn't really reached Root YI yet. That's unfortunate. But it is going to be as it is. And as this is the last game, I'd like to thank every participant, every sponsor of this beautiful game. Come visit our website. You can see the address in the top bottom right. And you can recommend games. We'll be back on Wednesday and Sunday with the next broadcast, and I think that although Microwave is taking its sweet time, it's killing all the workers again, has started the natural. The spore will be done, the sunken will be done, and this is the game. So Steamhammer is going to be demoted to the loser rounds, while Microwave is going to be playing Kilobot in the winners final, and I'm sure looking forward to that game. In the losers match we will have Cherry Pie, Steamhammer, Iron, and what we'll have as well, the last one is going to be McGraves. So there you go, that was the last game. Congratulations to Microwave making it through. And thank you for watching. I hope to see you again next time. Goodbye.